and the Monaco Grand Prix is underway.
Hey, I'm Serenity, and this is my channel, and welcome back to my kitchen and another episode of Pit Stop Sweets and Treats. Welcome to round 8. We are in Monaco this time. So, this series, we make one dessert inspired by each of our hosting countries every week on the F1 calendar. So, in Monaco, which, y'all, there is not a lot of sweet native to Monaco, we are going to be making Mille Feuille. I hope I'm saying that right. Okay, I literally have a pronunciation video on it. It's basically means million, so it's like million layers of pastry, sort of, and it's strawberry based with a basic custard cream. Also, I will want to say my French is going to be horrible in this video, okay? I am currently not taking any French classes, even though one day I will. So we're going to start by preheating our oven at 400 degrees. You might hear it. My oven likes to act up. And I have 1 cup of strawberries that I cut, and we're going to sprinkle it with 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. So we are going to reduce these, but I usually reduce my berries on the stove. For this recipe, we are doing it in the oven. I've never done that before, so I'm just going to mix this around. So the history of this dessert, it's basically 3 layers of puff pastry layered with some sort of fresh fruit, usually strawberries or blueberries. It is confused with the Napoleon because a Napoleon has 3 layers, usually filled with the same custard we are making, and then chocolate with a marble design, but that is not this dessert. I'm going to bring in a little baking sheet I have, and we are going to place our strawberries on here. This baking sheet is also lined with like a reusable silicone. And I'm going to spread these into an even layer. So in 1651, Chef Francis published a recipe in Le Cuisine of France, which is one of the French cookbooks, actually, that we have record of. Later, the recipe would be perfected by what is known as a celebrity chef, one of the first ones, kind of like a Gordon Ramsay. His name was Anthony. He was the forefront of French pastry, being revered as like a Michelin star meal. When in the cuisine world, French food is usually like the top of this hierarchy. Okay, I'm going to take our strawberries and we're going to pop them into the oven for 15 minutes till they become gooey. Now we are going to move on to the base of like our custard cream. So we're going to start with half a cup of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of corn flour, same thing, and 2 egg yolks. And we are going to whisk this together. So in the 19th century, specifically 1867, pastry chef Adolphe made the million layer dessert his like signature. Think Gordon Ramsay and the beef Wellington. And he was the one to popularize it. This is not mixing as well as it should. I think this is as well as we're going to get this mixed. We are going to move this to the side. And we're going to go to the stove to start our milk mixture. While we work on our custard, we are going to talk track history facts. So let's go to this. We are going to turn our stove on medium heat. Then we're going to add 3/4 cups of whole milk and 1 cup of vanilla bean that I have separated the vanilla stick and the vanilla bean paste from inside. So the first Grand Prix was held here in 1929 as part of the annual sports car racing event. Monaco is so special because the place is actually so small that it is one of the most difficult circuits because even a centimeter of a mistake can cause a driver to hit the rails at the city center or fall into the harbor. Also, it is well known to be a boring race, quote unquote, because it is slow. But obviously Monaco is iconic for the old money and luxury feels along with the history. It is one of the races you want to win as an F1 driver. And as you should know, if you are new to this sport or not, we have a Monegasque driver on the grid who won Monaco last year, defeating his curse, and hopefully he can do it again this year. Okay, so we're at a simmer. I'm going to turn off the heat, okay? Then I am going to quickly pour in our little egg yolk mixture that is all curdled. And we're going to whisk this quickly because we don't want those egg yolks to cook. So some quick facts. The circuit is 3.337 kilometers in length. It has a total of 78 laps. When the race is complete, the drivers will have traveled 260 kilometers, 0.286 kilometers in distance. It is one of the shortest completed distance on the whole F1 grid. But that's mostly because the drivers are driving at a slower rate. And the current lap record is held by Lewis Hamilton from his 2021 lap at 1 minute, 12 seconds, 0.909 hundredths of a second. Okay, that's as good as it's gonna get. We're gonna turn the heat back on to another medium heat, and then for about 3 minutes, we're gonna constantly whisk this so it thickens up and is bubbly. We're taking her off the heat because we have thickened, and quickly we're gonna add 1 tablespoon of unsalted butter that I've cubed into small cubes, and we're gonna whisk this together with no heat on until the butter is melted. You're really getting your arm workout in here today. Let's move this back over here. All right, and we have just a medium-ish bowl. We are gonna put our cream in, and I'm also just pulling out the vanilla bean stock. I'm gonna cover it with plastic wrap and put this in the back of my fridge so it can chill. Our strawberries are done, so I'm gonna place them in this little bowl, and I am destroying my beautiful towels. So let's talk this week news. There is not much news I can think of except two main topics. I'm going to set our strawberries aside to chill, and we are gonna move some things around because we have to roll out our puff pastry. I'm gonna lay down some plastic wrap because I don't want to dirty my counter. So the first thing is that the F1 drivers had a private screening of the F1 movie, and they all pretty much said they didn't like it. Like they said, like the PR answer, like, oh, it'll bring new fans, that sort of thing. But you can tell they didn't like it, which is so valid because the movie has Brad Pitt in it. Gross. And it's gonna hurt the sport in some ways more than others. And we'll talk about that when it gets time for the movie to come out. So I have been defrosting my puff pastry sheets for about 30 minutes outside of the freezer, just on my counter. And I'm going first flour my surface a little bit and then roll out. And puff pastry is so delicate, so be careful. And the second thing of weekly news that I saw and I want to talk on is that the Colapinto fans are hitting limits that are unjust. I'm going to roll this out using a rolling pin as much as I can. I understand being passionate about a sport, but the fact that so many drivers are receiving hate because of him, and it comes to a point, we'll say this, that as a driver, you need to address your fans. When everyone is getting like harmed on for no reason. Yuki, what did Yuki do? Lando, Jack Doohan. Yes, what he posted, which I will pop on screen, blaming just Argentinian fans is wrong because it was a British person who altered things. But guys, this is ridiculous. And it comes to a point where the team need to make statements. Filtering the comments is not a statement. Like, yes, as a driver, I understand I'm a Swiftie. You are not responsible for your fans, but to a certain extent, you are responsible for them. So the next part is pretty interesting because I have a baking sheet lined with parchment exactly to the size, and I am going to put the piece that we rolled out onto this baking sheet. Now that it's on our baking sheet, we're gonna cut it in half and then in four this way. I should probably use a ruler, but I am not, so I like to live on the edge. Now I'm gonna take another piece of parchment that is the equal size, put it on top, and this is where it gets crazy. We're gonna take another pan. This one is slightly smaller because it needs to lay on top. And then we're gonna take a heavy baking dish. This one just is the correct size, and we're gonna lay that on top, so it's nice and weighted. And this is just so our pastry can get nice and crispy. I'm gonna put it in the oven at 400 for about 15 minutes, which is what it says on the box. And then we'll let it cool completely. While that is going, let's go into our next topic, which is feminism and the hosting country. It's time to get a little bit dark, not really for this one, but as women in motorsports, if you watch this sport, that should not be that surprising for you because being a woman who enjoys this sport is a lot of misogyny that we experience, sexism, a lot of things. So I'm reading this book, Faster. It talks about sports tourism and how sporting events are used to cover up deeper, darker things that hosting countries are doing. It talks a lot about the Monaco Grand Prix too, very fun. And I'm getting my degree in women, gender, and sexuality studies. So I study feminism and history day in and day out. So I thought it'd be interesting to bring my educational background into this series and talk a little bit more about that. So let's talk about feminism in Monaco. Grace Kelly, who was an American actress and was also the Princess of Monaco. She is also the person the Hermes Kelly bag is named after, a dream bag in a little sage green. She is the most well-known sort of in this genre because of her philanthropic work and accomplishments to help better women's lives. Our pastries are out of the oven. They're cooling over there. So now we are going to take a third of a cup of heavy cream into a medium-sized mixing bowl. And then we are going to beat this till peaks form. So let's run through a couple of accomplishments, kind of just like chronological order. In 1919, a male politician actually was the one to suggest women's suffrage. But even at that time, married women were still legal minors. You were allowed to marry a minor. The organized women's movement in Monaco would only begin in 1958 when the UFM to support the introduction of women's suffrage in Monaco. I am just going to now put in our custard mixture, pastry cream, whatever this is, and we're going to fold this in. Some more quick facts. In 1945, women got the right to vote. In 1962, women got the right to run for election, and basic rights of women's suffrage was included in a reform package introduced ruling. In 1963, it was the years of the women in parliament. In 2022, it was the year of the first year of the woman speaker in parliament. I'm now going to put this actually in a piping bag. Now that we have pretty much all of our elements, we can assemble. Just going to go back and forth like that, and then place these on with food. Also in 2022, Monaco's National Council voted to amend the outdated provisions to the law that favor men over women, tweezers. And I'm going to top with strawberries. This one, I forgot that I'm only doing like one layer on that one. And lastly, I'm going to top with a little powdered sugar. And that is basically all the information I could actually find. So Monaco is not on the 2024 Global Gender Gap Index because I would assume it's such a small country with only about 40,000 people living there. But if we go off of France, which I know Monegasque is not France, but France allows Monaco to live under them pretty much. France is ranked 22 out of 146 on the Global Gender Gap Index. Here are our completed tarts. I think we just use a fork, so I'm going to cut into this one right here on the center. And guys, can you appreciate all my checkered theme items that I have been collecting? Okay, let's see. It's really good. It tastes like kind of like a deformed custard tart. Instead of it being kind of handheld, it's layered, stacked like lasagna. I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10 Leo Leclercs because what animal is native to Monaco? None. So the animal that we are gonna use for the system is the qualms I have with this, and it's mostly the recipe I chose. Believe me, I actually switched recipes because the recipe I was using first, the instructions made no sense. I will say though, the recipe only called for 1 cup of strawberries. I personally would have done 2 to 3 cups of strawberries, and also the way it roasted in the oven. The sugar is candied, so it really shrunk the strawberries. But other than that, it's pretty good. So let's do some race predictions really quick. As of filming this, as always, I film these on Fridays. I have only seen FP1 and FP2, so I have no idea what the starting grid is. I would say Charles goes on to win again, but Ferrari, yes, they're fast, but everyone's kind of doubting them except Della, which, dude, let's put a little faith in our own team for a second. But I'm going to say McLaren dominates, specifically Norris wins. It's his home race, quote unquote. I want to say the Ferraris are going to be on there, hopefully. I don't know at this point. And we had 2 red flags. Plus, Ollie Behrman has a 10-place grid penalty, so that sucks. But yeah, so quickly, let's do some memes to end out this video. The memes were not as good as last week's memes. Those were great. So here are a couple. And here are a couple more. And yeah, that is all I have for you. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. All my socials are linked down below if you want to follow me on there. I will see you next week on the last stop on this triple header in Spain with another authentic dessert. Also, before we go, yes, it's not Monaco, but it's the Indy 500. I have been to Indiana. I have been to that track, and I need Pato Award to win. Hence the Pato Award shirt I have on. So, everyone, cross your fingers for that, please. All right, that's all I have for you. Love you, mean it, kisses, drinking stupid, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.